let's get to the torchbearers and the report card. So right now, the torchbearers, as you know, in Circle Park, there's this dude holding up a torch, and he is the ultimate award that you can win. And we have seen football players such as Joshua Dobbs win that award. It's an all-around award, not just an athlete or academic award. It's just your best ball. And those are the torchbearers. It's brought to you by our friend Andy Mason, realestate.com. Real estate experts with over 4 decades combined experience in East Tennessee. Best prices, best service in the Knoxville area. Andy Mason, realestate.com. So who are our torchbearers coming off the Texas A&M win, sir?
All right, number 5, and before you question on why he's not higher, I will explain, but number 5 is Jalen Wright. Over 7 yards a carry against a dominant front four, 136 yards. Jalen Wright had a heck of a game, and I can't say enough about how hard he ran. So Jalen Wright's number 5. The reason he's not higher is because of number 4, which is Cooper Mays. We said Cooper Mays versus Walter Nolan would be the matchup of the game. Cooper Mays won that matchup, Dave. He won that matchup handily.
Cooper Mays, injuries are going to be a question mark because he's had 2 seasons that have been maligned by that, going back 2 years ago and this year. Cooper Mays bumped up his draft stock by a round against Walter Nolan. I don't think there's any question about that. You watch that and you get over the concerns about injuries, and you're going to say that guy may be, I don't know all the centers in college football, but that guy might be the best center in college football, period, end of discussion.
It's funny. I'm going to say this now because his brother was a more highly touted recruit. Cooper Mays is a better NFL prospect than his older brother. I mean, he just is. He will be better in the NFL than his older brother, injuries notwithstanding. So, yeah, he balled out. Number 3. Now, everybody wants to give, and this is kind of a duo award, but I gave it to one person because Gabe Jeudy-Lally did have 2 pass breakups and a pick, whereas Kamal Hadden had a more meaningless pick and no pass breakups. But I gave the torchbearer to Kamal Hadden, Dave, and I think the reason I did that is because they weren't even throwing Kamal Hadden's way in this game. They didn't even look his way, and that was a huge – I mean, Kamal Hadden played like a shutdown corner is supposed to play. And, again, guys, this is not the Kamal Hadden of last year. He's an all-SEC cornerback right now. He's the best cornerback in the SEC right now. And I'm not saying that as a hyperbole.
Wow.
He is the best
cornerback in the SEC.
Yes. Look at how – and, by the way – PFF grades back me up on that. He has the best coverage grades in the SEC right now. He is the stat. See, the problem with like these awards is they're stats based, but you can't do that for a cornerback. He should be SEC Defensive Player of the Week or be in contention for it, honestly, because of how well he played. And the only reason he shouldn't is because of some other people I'm going to name on this list.
Yep. And Gabe Jeudy-Lally's was more of a pressure pick as well. So Kamal Hadden has gone from an absolute GOAT to a superstar. Again, click that like and subscribe button.
Goat to goat.
What's that?
Goat to goat. Goat like laughable to the goat.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty good. All right. So if you want to make me feel better, hit that like button because I'm battling one heck of a cold. But I'm good to go. I'm playing hurts. I'm out to get this done. All right. So who else is the torchbearer?
All right. So the best defensive player, because Kamal Hadden is up there, but Kamal Hadden isn't as good if it's not for one James Pierce Jr. And again, this is a defensive line award as a whole because they all played great. But James Pierce Jr. was the biggest stud of all of them. And James Pierce Jr., you have to respect him in coverage if he drops back as much as you do as a rusher off the edge. I've never seen an edge rusher that you can trust to drop back in coverage as fluidly as James Pierce and still be that effective.
He is a scary good player, and I will give Fred White a lot of credit. He said Leonard Little top ability, and I thought he was crazy at the time, but Fred doesn't throw those out, so I take it as gospel. And then we had Jimmy Himes on last week that agreed with that. You are looking at the next great superstar on Tennessee's football team. I thought that there might be other guys that would be elite players in college and the NFL, but right now, I thought it was Rue McCoy, actually. That he was the best NFL prospect on the team based off some scouts I talked to. But if you look at the NFL, they don't place as much of an emphasis on the receiver. And James Pierce Jr. plays a position they put a lot of emphasis on. That guy very well could be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. Zero exaggeration, as long as there are no more maturity issues from this point forward.
Yeah, were there ever any maturity issues? I didn't know if there were or not.
He needed to get a little bit more focused, which is why you're seeing kind of the explosion now.
Well, You and Fred both said put him in bubble wrap this offseason. Like after spring, y'all said put him in bubble wrap, make sure he's ready to go. And y'all were both right. And he is, I didn't see it coming. And also sometimes he really thrives in this system because Tim Binks, even though he runs a 4-3, he still has the Pruitt philosophy of the edge rusher can kind of play off the ball or up on the line, and it doesn't really matter as much. And that's a big deal. That's a big way for James Pierce to benefit. So yeah, James Pierce he's incredible, and he's the best edge rusher on the team. Funny enough, Tyler Barron and Roman Harrison were the veterans. James Pierce is better than both of them by a mile.
Yep. From our SC Scout guy, he's a South Carolina fan. Where do you guys see Rattler being drafted? I think he's as interesting as Hooker because for a different reason. Hooker last year, you wondered if he was a product of the system. Rattler is a byproduct of the system. That system is holding him back. So I could see one player falling in love with Rattler, or one team, falling in love with Rattler and picking him higher in the draft than maybe he should be. So I like Rattler. He is playing out of his mind. But Tennessee has Spencer Rattler right now. Let's put it this way. They're undefeated.
Yeah, simple that's fact. Probably true.
Well, if they have Cooper Mays, are they undefeated?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. I don't think people realize how out of sorts they were with Ollie Lane up front. And Ollie Lane did get beat, had a holding penalty, at least one. He just wasn't ready to go. All right, well, let's get to what other players we got.
The last one is D. Williams, number one player of the game. Not just the punt return for a touchdown. You know who he was the one who fielded that punt to set it up at the half-yard line. He was the one who caught that ball. So, I mean, he's got to be special teams player of the week for the SEC, right? If he's not, that's a shame.
Oh, he will be, and that'll come out on Monday. Top 5 players. We got you right there with the torchbearer and report card. So let's get rolling. I'm curious what you have. The quarterback, QB1, Joe Milton.
It's a D. It's a D. And by the way, the only reason it's not enough is because of how Joe Milton ran with the ball a couple of times that were nice, and that touchdown pass to Jacob Warren. But he threw an inexcusable interception in the red zone at the end. That stepping out of bounds when he was running on third and on the first drive on third down when he had the first down. Just basic elementary mistakes he made. It's a D.
All right, give me the running backs. Got to be an A, right?
B plus. The only reason it's not an A is because there were 2 short yardage plays that they didn't convert the first down on, and Dylan Sampson did have a fumble.
All right, receivers.
D plus. So barely better than the quarterbacks because receiver play was awful. Chaz Nimrod is the only reason it wasn't enough because I love the way he played. Squirrel White didn't have a chance to get involved in the game a lot, and Ramel Keaton had a drop. Dante Thornton had a drop. So it doesn't count as a drop for Thornton because McCollum Castles bailed him out, and we're going to show that with tight ends.
Okay, let's remember this too. You're grading the receivers and Joe Milton on what the coaches are deciding to use Joe Milton, and I think it's pretty conservative. All right, offensive line. Got to be an A.
Well, offensive line is B because of Ollie Lane. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I mean, and tight ends is an A, by the way. Shout out to Jacob Warren, touchdown catch, and McCollum Castles had that catch off Dante Thornton's drop. So...
All right. So on the defensive side, the defensive line, I feel like I want to call these guys the defensive front 7, and maybe we change our grade at some point. But your thoughts on the defensive line and how they play? Do you include Pierce as a lineman or edge rusher? Or
well, typically I separate the tackles and the edge rushers. In this game, I did it all as one unit because of the way they played, and it's an A+. Every single one of them played a perfect game, and I mean a perfect game, and I can't say enough. The key play was that 4th down stop where Max Johnson tripped over his lineman's foot. The play before that, they got a 3rd and 1 stop. I mean, they were dominant all game. And so Amari Thomas, Bryson Eason, great up the middle. James Pierce, the star on the outside, and of course, Tyler Barron had a sack too, and Roman Harrison got pressure. They were all amazing.
Linebackers.
A. Only reason not an A+ is because Texas A&M did move down the field on the first drive, and that was because of some linebackers being out of position. So that's why.
All right, defensive backs.
Again, A, and that's because of the first drive. Otherwise, it would have been an A+.